In the late 1800s, Texas was a land of opportunity and hardship. Homesteaders flocked to the vast plains, dreaming of owning their piece of the frontier. These brave souls often traveled hundreds of miles, facing treacherous weather and scarce resources. They eked out a living, clearing land, planting crops, and building homes from scratch. The work was grueling, but the promise of a better life pushed them forward. Many homesteaders were families seeking refuge from the crowded cities or those looking to escape past troubles. Each day was a challenge, filled with the threat of droughts, floods, or wild animals. Yet, despite the struggles, there was a strong sense of community among these settlers. Neighbors helped each other during tough times, sharing tools and food whenever needed. As they built their lives, homesteaders had to navigate the complex world of cattle ranching, where vaqueros, skilled Mexican cowhands, played a vital role. This relationship was both beneficial and fraught with tension. The settlers often viewed the vaqueros with suspicion, not fully understanding their culture or contributions. As these two worlds collided, conflicts arose that would change lives forever. Little did they know, one fateful act would ignite a series of events that would lead to tragedy and revelation. In the heart of Texas ranching culture was the vaquero, a skilled cattle herder whose expertise was essential for managing large herds. With a deep understanding of the land and animals, vaqueros were admired for their riding and roping abilities. They could navigate tough terrains and rounding up cattle with remarkable ease. This dedication to their craft made them indispensable to ranch owners, who relied on their knowledge to keep operations thriving. Vaqueros were not just workers, they were keepers of tradition, blending Spanish and Mexican influences into a unique culture that shaped life in Texas. Their vibrant dress, often adorned with colorful bandanas and wide-brimmed hats, reflected their proud heritage. Many had stories passed down from generations, instilling a sense of identity that they carried into every task. Despite their crucial role, vaqueros often faced prejudice from settlers who misunderstood their way of life. While these cowhands worked hard under the sun, their contributions were sometimes overshadowed by suspicion and distrust. Yet, friendships blossomed among some settlers and vaqueros, bridging gaps between cultures. As tensions mounted in the region, the fate of both communities hung in the balance, waiting for a moment that would change everything forever. One fateful afternoon, the tension in the air was palpable as the homesteader witnessed a group of men chaining the vaquero, Mario, to a post. The scene ignited a fire within him. He could not stand by while an innocent man faced such cruelty. Driven by a mix of anger and compassion, he approached the men, demanding they release Mario. They scoffed at his outburst, enforcing their belief that the vaquero was nothing more than a thief. With courage swelling in his chest, the homesteader brandished a knife and swiftly cut through the heavy chains binding Mario. The instant the metal fell away, relief washed over the vaquero's face. However, that moment of liberation sparked immediate chaos. The men who had chained him were furious, shouting threats as they grabbed their weapons. Mario, grateful yet aware of the danger, urged the homesteader to flee. But before they could escape, the clamor attracted attention from nearby ranchers and townsfolk. The situation escalated quickly as rumors spread like wildfire. Within moments, word reached the Texas Rangers about this act of defiance against local authority. Unbeknownst to them both, this single act of bravery would set off a chain of events that would forever change their lives. The homesteader's bold act of freeing Mario sent shockwaves throughout the region. As news spread, it deepened the rift between settlers and vaqueros, highlighting cultural misunderstandings and fueling existing prejudices. Many settlers viewed the vaqueros as outsiders who threatened their claim to land and resources. The idea that a settler would side with a vaquero against fellow Americans was seen as an act of betrayal by some, igniting anger among those who felt justified in their actions. Moreover, rumors began circulating that the vaqueros were involved in cattle thefts, further inflaming tensions. Settlers grew suspicious of any vaquero seen near their property, often blaming them for losses without evidence. This atmosphere of distrust created a divide, as families on both sides took up arms to protect what they believed was rightfully theirs. As the Texas Rangers rode in pursuit of the homesteader, many ranchers felt compelled to choose sides, aligning themselves with either the law or their neighbors. Friendships began to crumble under the weight of loyalty and fear. People who once worked together now eyed each other with suspicion. The conflict over land, identity, and justice had reached a boiling point, setting the stage for an inevitable clash that would alter lives forever. As news of the confrontation spread, the Texas Rangers were alerted to the unrest in the area. Known as a formidable law enforcement agency, the Rangers had a reputation for maintaining order in a time when lawlessness often reigned supreme in Texas. Their presence was meant to instill fear in criminals and assure settlers that justice would be served. The Rangers were called upon not only to apprehend the homesteader who freed Mario but also to restore peace among a community spiraling into chaos. Many saw them as heroic figures, dedicated to upholding the law, while others viewed them with suspicion, perceiving their actions as siding with the settlers against the Vaqueros. Upon their arrival, the Rangers quickly assessed the situation. They found a community divided and simmering with tension, making it clear that their task wouldn't be easy. With their distinct wide-brimmed hats and badges shining in the sunlight, they struck an imposing figure as they rode through town on horseback, ready to restore order. However, as they began questioning locals and gathering information, it became evident that their involvement could either quell the unrest or escalate it further. The fate of both communities now lay in their hands, caught between justice and revenge. The Texas Rangers wasted no time in their pursuit of the homesteader, determined to bring him to justice for freeing Mario. Riding swiftly through the sunlit plains, they relied on their knowledge of the land and the communities they patrolled. Rangers questioned locals, gathering information about the homesteader's whereabouts while keeping a watchful eye on potential hiding spots. As rumors spread, fear rippled through the towns. Some settlers offered tips to the Rangers, eager to see the homesteader face consequences, while others were protective of him, fearing for his safety. The tension in the air thickened as neighbors turned against one another. Alliances were tested as the community divided between those who supported law and order and those who empathized with the plight of the homesteader. The Rangers employed a mix of strategy and intimidation, often riding into town with a show of force that made many feel uneasy. They set up checkpoints, scrutinizing travelers and questioning anyone who might have seen the fugitive. As days turned into weeks, both fear and loyalty swirled in equal measure. The hunt intensified, but so did the frustrations of a community caught in a storm of conflict that threatened to consume them all. The homesteader found himself in a whirlwind of emotions as he evaded the Texas Rangers. Fear gripped him tightly, each rustle of leaves or distant hoofbeat sending his heart racing. The once peaceful life he had envisioned was now replaced with a constant need to hide and survive. He questioned whether he had done the right thing by freeing Mario, wrestling with the weight of his actions. Each day brought new challenges as he moved through the dense brush, seeking shelter in abandoned shacks or under the cover of trees. His thoughts often drifted to what awaited him if caught, facing the wrath of the Rangers, the scorn of fellow settlers, and the deepening divide within his community. He felt torn between his moral compass and his instinct for self-preservation. Despite his fear, there was a flicker of hope in his heart. He believed that standing up for what was right mattered more than his own safety. He thought about Mario's grateful expression as the chains fell away, which fueled his resolve to continue running and fighting for justice. But with every passing moment, he understood that survival came at a price that could cost him not only freedom but also friendships and possibly even life itself. As the homesteader navigated the rugged terrain, he encountered several individuals along the way, each offering their perspective on the tumultuous events unfolding in the community. One afternoon, he stumbled upon Clara, a fellow settler who had always been wary of the Vaqueros. With a furrowed brow, she expressed her disgust at his actions, claiming that aiding Mario only encouraged lawlessness. "You can't trust them," she insisted, her voice trembling with emotion. "They take what isn't theirs." Yet, later that day, he met with Tomas, a kind-hearted vaquero who had known Mario for years. Tomas spoke passionately about the bond between settlers and vaqueros, emphasizing their shared struggles against nature and hardship. "We are not so different," he said softly. Your fight is my fight. The homesteader felt a flicker of understanding as he listened to Tomasa's stories of loyalty and resilience. With each encounter, he realized that perspectives were often shaped by past experiences and fears. Some settlers saw only enemies where there could be allies, while others recognized the humanity shared across cultural divides. These meetings left him pondering his role in this conflict and the possibility of unity amidst chaos, deepening his resolve to forge a path toward understanding rather than division. The tension reached a boiling point as the setting sun cast long shadows across the dusty plains. The homesteader had taken refuge in an abandoned barn, heart pounding with anticipation and fear, knowing that the Texas Rangers were closing in on him. The air was thick with uncertainty, every creak of wood seemed to echo the imminent confrontation. As night fell, the Rangers rode into the area, their silhouettes sharp against the twilight sky. They had gathered information and were determined to capture the homesteader, convinced that his actions threatened law and order. The leader, a seasoned ranger with a steely gaze, rallied his men, declaring, he must pay for his defiance. In that moment, the homesteader felt a surge of adrenaline. He could hear the distant sounds of hooves and shouts as the Rangers approached. With his heart heavy, he reflected on his choices. Was he a hero standing for justice, or merely a fugitive guilty of rebellion? He knew this confrontation wasn't just about him, it represented a clash between justice and revenge, between empathy for a fellow man and the harsh laws of the land. As the Rangers drew closer, he braced himself for what was to come, a moment that would define not only his fate but also the future of his community. The clash between the homesteader and the Texas Rangers culminated in a tense standoff, with both sides prepared for a confrontation that could change everything. In a surprising turn, as the Rangers advanced, Mario stepped forward, pleading for calm. He recognized that violence would only deepen the divide between their communities. His voice resonated with a mixture of authority and desperation, urging both sides to consider the consequences of their actions. In the end, the homesteader was taken into custody but not without a promise from the Rangers to treat him fairly. Mario's intervention allowed for a moment of understanding, opening a dialogue about the animosities that had festered for too long. The homesteader, though facing legal repercussions, became an unlikely symbol of hope for unity. As time passed, both men returned to their communities, forever changed by the events that transpired. The homesteader's family learned the importance of standing up for justice and understanding others' struggles. Mario continued to work with fellow vaqueros to bridge gaps with settlers, fostering a newfound respect that slowly began to heal old wounds. While the road ahead remained fraught with challenges, their actions paved the way for a more inclusive future in Texas, where empathy could begin to replace fear. This incident offers a poignant lens into broader issues in American history, particularly concerning land rights, cultural clashes, and the role of law enforcement in communities. During the late 1800s, the expansion of homesteaders into Texas often led to violent conflicts with established groups, such as vaqueros, who had deep connections to the land through generations. This clash was rooted not only in competition over resources but also in a profound misunderstanding of each other's cultures. The Texas Rangers, who represented law and authority, were often seen as protectors but also as instruments of oppression, especially towards marginalized communities like the vaqueros. Their swift response to the situation underscored a pattern where enforcement was sometimes prioritized over justice. The conflict exemplified a microcosm of the social and legal struggles that many faced while navigating their place in an ever-changing America. Ultimately, this story highlights not just the personal stakes for individuals like the homesteader and Mario but encapsulates the tension underlying American society at that time. It serves as a reminder of the need for empathy and understanding amidst diverse cultural histories, a lesson that still echoes today as communities continue to grapple with their shared pasts and collective futures. This tale of the homesteader and the vaquero offers lasting lessons about understanding, bravery, and coexistence among different cultures. At its core, the story illustrates how fear can drive individuals apart but also how courage can lead to solidarity. The homesteader's decision to free Mario demonstrates the importance of standing up for what is right, even in the face of overwhelming opposition. It reminds us that true bravery often lies in empathy and compassion for others, regardless of their background. Moreover, the resolution brought about by Mario's intervention emphasizes that communication and mutual respect are essential in overcoming deeply rooted prejudices. The willingness to listen and see beyond differences allowed both communities to begin healing and rebuilding trust. This experience serves as a reminder that progress is possible when people prioritize understanding each other over maintaining divisions. Lastly, the narrative speaks to the ongoing relevance of these themes in contemporary society, where cultural clashes and misunderstandings persist. It calls for continued efforts toward coexistence, urging future generations to learn from history, embrace diversity, and seek solidarity in the shared human experience. Through understanding and bravery, we can navigate conflicts and lay down the groundwork for a more harmonious future.